What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. So Jazwares took part in AEW Revolution's Fan Fest, where they showed off a bunch of new figures and revealed some renderings / prototypes of some upcoming figures as well. Subscriber Joe Hogan wanted my thoughts on it. And like I always tell you, if you want me to talk about anything figure related, just drop a comment because I'm more than happy to talk about any and everything in any figure line that I'm collecting. So let's break down these amazing, crazy reveals. There's so much, and I just had to write a super long list to make sure I didn't forget anything. There's so much stuff coming. So first off, we have the Fighter Fest Street Fighter GameStop exclusives of the Elite. Kenny Omega as Akuma, Matt Jackson as Ryu, and Nick Jackson as Ken. So basically, they're doing a Street Fighter motif. They've done this before in New Japan, so it's no real surprise they try it here. They've done t-shirt collaborations. Now we have figure versions of the Elite as Street Fighter characters. I think the best one's probably Matt, just because he's able to rock the Ryu white gi, have the headband, have all the different stuff, the removable gi, so you can take it off. They've got Young Bucks on the back, and you can have them in wrestling form, just as normal. Nick has kind of the same thing, but I don't like the head sculpt. I think this is a problem with both Young Bucks. But the biggest issue with his head sculpt, he actually has a headband, and Ken doesn't rock the headband outside of Street Fighter Alpha. So that's not something I wanted to see there, and I just kind of thought it'd be cooler for them to have the wilder Nick Jackson head sculpt in this case. Kenny Omega doesn't look as interesting just because he's not rocking that black gi. He just has some red paint on the back. This is accurate to how Kenny looked during that, but if you're going to do the whole Akuma look, you got to have a little bit more than the red hair dyed with the bun and just have more of that Akuma look. So I was a little disappointed with his version, which is kind of funny since he's the super video game head of the Elite. So these are cool figures. You can get them exclusively at GameStop right now. There was also a Shop AEW Chris Jericho exclusive figure. Now, this one was pretty similar to a lot of Jericho figures we've already seen. Has this screaming head sculpt, not really much to the outfit. The one unique aspect of the figure was it had a new cloth t-shirt with a Jericho head. Kind of cool for an exclusive, but it's sold out already. It was limited to 3,000 figures, so it's no telling if all those figures have sold out already, or Shop AEW is just kind of staggering the release. Given the fact that some collectors have already started getting the figures, I'm going to go with they're sold out, never to be seen again, unless you want to go on eBay. So hopefully you got them if you wanted them, but otherwise it's really just a cloth t-shirt with a different design. And I'm sure they're going to have many more versions of Jericho to come, so don't feel too bad if you missed this one. One thing that I think a lot of collectors are going to be interested in and want to pick up, even though it wasn't necessarily on the top of their AEW figure checklist, is a really cool homage to Mr. Brody Lee, John Hoover, and his family. It's a 2-pack with Mr. Brody Lee and Negative One. And Negative One has been involved on TV with the Dark Order, Ty Conti. So it's not like this is some fan fiction kind of driven design deal where it's like, oh, let's just make up something. This is, he's an actual on-screen character, so there's validity to it, and it's a nice tribute to a father and son involved in the wrestling business, and it's really cool. There's a nice video showing Negative One actually reacting to seeing his figure for the first time, so it's a really cool deal. You can still get that at Ringside Collectibles right now. And now with the exclusives out of the way, let's break down all of these crazy reveals coming down the pipe from Jazwares AEW Unrivaled line. Now we've seen up to Series 8. That's the one with the Best Friends and Chris Jericho. Let's go on to Series 9. This is the new one that was revealed, shown with prototypes at FanFest. And basically it's a Team Taz featured lineup. I kind of like when they do these faction focus waves where you can knock out a bunch. We just saw that with the Best Friends wave. We're getting it again with Team Taz. So we got Brian Cage. He looks pretty good. I'm hoping, as always, that they've included multiple head sculpts. I think that's one of the best features of both of these AEW lines, because it's great to have the extreme yelling portraits, but it's also great to have a neutral one for, when they're just kind of sitting around Taz looking menacing and have that neutral expression. It's always good to have that. And then when they're in the ring doing their moves or whatever, they can swap off and put the head sculpt that has more of an expressive, portrait. So we've got Cage. He looks pretty big. I think he could have been more defined because Cage is a ripped up big dude, but I'm really happy to get this guy. I've been a fan of his since he showed up in Lucha Underground and then went over to Impact, and now it's really cool to actually get him. So I add another figure to my growing Lucha Underground collection. Then we've got Powerhouse Hobbs, really good. Again, I hope he has a different portrait just so he has a neutral head sculpt. But I think they could have made his arms a little bit bigger because he is a wide, muscular dude as well. And I think that his figure might be a tad slight. These figures weren't kind of lined up against each other. They were in basically a detolf shelf, kind of 4 corners. So you couldn't really compare them, how they matched up and looked right next to each other. But they look pretty decent outside of what I think are smaller arms. Then we've got Ricky Starks, and I love that they actually make sure that they try to account for smaller people. So he's not ripped up, he's lean, and I love that. It's kind of like parts from the Sammy Guevara. I think that's most of the base of this figure. The head sculpt is great, and that was something that a lot of people were kind of upset with a lot of these reveals this weekend. They weren't all great, but I think they did a really good job with Ricky Starks' figure. And he comes with a chase, which is really great and a good use of the chase format. This one features him dressed up as Darby Allin back when they had their feud. And it's great as a chase because you don't have to have it. It's not something, oh man, my collection won't be the same if I don't see it. Their chase figures are so hard to actually come by that it's like, oh man, I should go play the lottery now that I got a chase figure. So this is one that would be really fun to find on shelf, but not so, oh man, this was a version of Ricky Starks that I wanted. I'm never going to get it unless I go to eBay. And the other figure, new one, is Thunder Rosa. She comes with a chase as well. And I think either one is fine with her, but they've already announced in other ways more Thunder Rosas. I love that because she's a very colorful looking character. She rocks all these different costumes. So the more Thunder Rosas we can get, the better. Hopefully they can work in that X-23 tribute outfit. I really like that one, and that would be a fun one to see too. She's also done like a Power Rangers one recently. So there's a lot of comic book pop culture options for Thunder Rosa figures. So love to see what they come up with, what they're able to do just because of licensing and kind of legalese and issues on that front. So hopefully we do see that. And the final figure is probably the biggest disappointment just based off the head sculpt, Eddie Kingston. Eddie's been a really fun addition to the roster ever since his first match against Cody Rhodes, so he's been one that I've been looking forward to seeing in figure form. But I don't think they really did it justice. I think the likeness is a little bit soft, and I think the hair is too thick. He should have like a really low fade, and I think they just went with a full painted job. I'm hoping this is just an early prototype so they can kind of go back to the drawing board and fix it. I haven't seen a lot from Jazwares in terms of their response to fan criticism. Sometimes it's just trolling. People just, I hate this outfit, whatever. But I think they've done a pretty good job of changing head sculpts with newer figures. So even if this one isn't the greatest, and we've seen before from Jazwares, they haven't always nailed head sculpts. FTR, Riho, Nyla Rose immediately come to mind. So I'm thinking maybe if this version isn't great, they will go back and make a better version of Kingston later on down the road. So hopefully they still have time to make some adjustments. But if not, I'll just wait till the better one comes along. So then with Wave 10, we've got a bunch of new additions, new changes, new looks for characters. Really good to see. First up is Miro, and now he is the version I wanted. No blonde hair. He is the Redeemer, rocking the TNT title. I was glad I was patient because the Miro figures with the blonde hair were starting to drop down in price, and I was like, do I want it? Should I get it? It is Miro. He's cool. But I'm glad I waited. This version looks really good. Stern head sculpt, and, he's big, wide. We'll be able to put in the game over on everybody. So I'm really looking forward to getting this one. Really excited about how he turned out. Taz also joins the line, and This version has what looks to be a leather coat, which will probably be very restrictive for a guy who's talking on the mic all the time. Those things are always tricky anyway, so I'm hoping that they kind of figure that out, maybe go with a cloth one. I feel like maybe it's too late to change that portion up. But he does have different expressions, different head sculpts, so that's really good for talking loudmouth commentator slash manager. It's very interesting that of all the broadcasters, we're going to have Ricky Starks and Taz before Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur. So at least we have half of Rampage's commentary team. And I guess we have Jericho, so we have almost everybody except for Excalibur. That's weird. We're also getting a new Britt Baker. She's going to be somebody that we're just going to see constant new figures because she rocks different colors with her outfits, and they've continued to improve on their head sculpts with her. That first one trended a bit more on the Riho head sculpt area and not so much as a really great Anna Jay, Ty Conti head sculpts we've seen as of late. So this one is a very big improvement and maybe something I get if not for something else I'm going to break down a little bit later. Then we're getting the first in a series to actually knock out something. I think Jazwares took really good notes when Mattel had their debacle with the Undisputed Era with their camouflage from War Games, and then it took forever to get the Adam Cole out. Now he's at Chase. Now he's in AEW, so it may be really impossible to find that to get a matching set of Undisputed Era. I always say the biggest problem was they never should have made Roderick Strong in the War Games camouflage tights, because then he could have just fit in with the existing Undisputed Era figures they gave us. That's beside the point. But Jazwares actually took notes, and they've decided we're not going to stretch this out. We're going to knock out that blood and guts with both factions, the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. I almost said Undisputed Era because they ruled War Games so much in NXT. But Inner Circle. So for Wave 10, we're getting Jake Hager in his prison inmate Inner Circle attire. We're getting Wardlow in his white attire, which was really interesting because you knew they were going to be super bloody by the end of the match. And this is the first of two. But I really like this approach, putting two guys from that match, one from opposite factions, so you can have them fight, so you can have them start off your War Games Blood and Guts match. I'm hoping maybe this leads us to Jazwares doing a dual ring War Games style setup, Blood and Guts. Sorry, don't want WWE legal coming after me. But I think this would be a nice opportunity because they're really showing that they're trying to do this match justice with the figures. Stay tuned on some more reveals on that front. Oh yeah, Series 11, getting Chris Jericho in his Blood and Guts attire. So right off the bat, we're getting another one. And one wave to another, getting that figure. Getting to Darby Allin, getting Jungle Boy. These are two figures that are pillars of the youth movement of AEW. So we know that they're going to keep getting recycled into the line. It's nice to see them change up the colors of the outfits. Of course, with Darby Allin, it's easier because of his different face paints. Jungle Boy's a little bit harder, but you'll notice he also has a different head sculpt. So they are constantly refreshing these figures and not just with repaints. They're changing the expressions, changing the portraits, which makes all the difference. Because if you don't like one that they released earlier, you know with Jazwares they're going to put out a different one that maybe you like a little bit better. Huge deal. And then we get some first time in the line figures. And Kip Sabian is a guy who's been around since the start of AEW. So I'm glad to see he's actually getting a figure now. He's not even wrestling, but it's really nice to see him get a figure because he's been involved in so many crazy wild matches in the formative years of AEW. Next up is a super bad girl, Penelope Ford. And she's another one who's been kind of overdue for a figure just based off of her long stint in AEW. And I love that Jazwares isn't shying away from the fact that some of the women on the roster are more statuesque, more statuesque than others. Some are slender, but they're not that one size kind of fits all deal that Mattel normally does with their female figures. So I like they're incorporating the assets properly with their female figures. Really nice to see. Penelope Ford shouldn't have the same build as Riho, and they're not doing that, which is great. And finally, Adam Cole. And that's kind of fast. I assume we'll see him before the end of the year, but you'd love to see that they're cranking out the new editions as quickly as possible. And that means we'll probably be another year, another 6 months before we see Keith Lee, but he's going to be coming soon. Ditto for Swerve and, spoiler, Jeff Hardy. So those are really exciting additions to see coming down the road. But the fact that Jazwares shows renderings really fast lets us know that, yeah, they know the demand is there for these guys, and they're going to work really hard to get them out as fast as possible onto our displays. And, you know, one thing that's really commendable about how they've approached the line is, yeah, they could always make Jericho figures, Kenny Omega figures, the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks, besides that Street Fighter pack, aren't included in these waves. And Omega is pretty sparse as well. And I love to see them taking that approach of we don't need to do the heavy hitters every other wave. We can put in first time in the line guys and keep them rolling so we have a fuller AEW roster as opposed to just different versions of Jericho, the Bucks, the Elite, Cody, etc. That's really cool. Cannot wait to see the figure of Adam Cole beyond this prototype. So the final Unrivaled set is Series 12, and we're continuing with the Blood and Guts theme with FTR. I hated their first head sculpts. I thought the Mattel ones were vastly superior. So I'm hoping to see that they've switched up, made some changes, made new head sculpts for Dax and, gosh, I don't know why I can never remember. Can't ever remember their names in AEW because they switched them up. Anyway, hopefully we've got new versions of those guys for this set. Either way, I'm going to get them to complete this Blood and Guts setup that we're going to get soon. Private Party is also getting figures for the first time. And I'm really hoping this is their original looks before they started hanging as part of the Hardy family office. They kind of streamline their outfits to be less exciting, less flamboyant. And I think those original looks were far more poetic. So I'm hoping in this case they don't go with a modern take on these guys, even though that's probably what we're going to get. So hopefully that's not the case. Jamie Hayter is another first time in the line figure. That's really cool. The only problem is, where is Rebel? We need that figure so she can do this with Britt Baker. And, you know, it's kind of weird that we're getting Jamie as opposed to Rebel first. And I hope Rebel's coming up soon because she has been by Britt Baker's side almost since the start of AEW. And, you know, you need your good lackey henchwoman in this case to be there to help in all of her matches. The final member of Unrivaled Series 12 is Jon Moxley. I am desperately hoping Jazwares has figured out that Jon Moxley is not 7 feet tall. He's the one big figure that is really messing up their scaling tremendously. He's too tall, and every figure has been grossly out of scale. It's like looking eye to eye, maybe even a little bit taller than Jake Hager, who is 6 inches taller than Moxley in real life. So I'm really hoping that this version of Moxley is the one that actually has him fixed, because his scaling's been all over the place and just a really big problem. So now we're moving on to Unmatched, and starting off with Series 4, CM Punk. He's got 2 figures. One is the long tights version. The Chase one is the short tights, and that's kind of interesting. And I'm really going to be curious to see what they do with the shorts that he rocked from his old look back in Independence, back in ROH days, that he rocked on Revolution. I think the shorts one, or the short tights, were the version I would have preferred to find easier. I don't like this long tights one. I think they did something funny with those legs. Looks like he has chicken legs. Maybe it's just perspective, but it's not great. So I'm really hoping that that is something that gets fixed with future figures. Next up is Cody Rhodes in a suit. And I think of all the suited guys, Cody's definitely one we need. I really appreciate that Jazwares wasn't like, nah, we're not doing any more Cody figures. He's gone. He's left AEW. Cody was a pretty big fixture in AEW, so I really appreciate that they're still continuing to bring his figures out. And suited Cody is absolutely a major need, right alongside MJF. So hopefully a suited MJF is on the horizon too. Next up, continuing that street clothes attire theme, is Hangman Adam Page. This is really cool because, you know, this is his promo attire. This is what he's drinking at the bar. And I love that they're including these looks for figures. This helps flesh out the whole feel of AEW beyond matches. So he can sit at ringside and he can distract the Young Bucks while he's drinking, dressed in his street clothes, not just in his wrestling attire. And I like this head sculpt. It's kind of happy. I'm happy to be here, happy to be drinking cowboy stuff. Version of Adam Cole. Page. I knew I was going to do that. So really good. I think I'm actually going to get this because, street clothes attire are kind of cool. And this one really fits the champion of AEW right now. Next up is MJF. This MJF is also part of the Blood and Guts collection, so you've got him knocked out as well. Really cool to see them focusing so hard on getting this match with 10 guys knocked out so fast. Finally, we got 2 more members of this wave. Corazon de Leon. That is Chris Jericho from his stint in Mexico. I don't really see the likeness here. I don't like the rubber jacket. I feel like this could have been more exciting, but I guess that's the best I could do. I would love to see them do like a Thrill Seekers version of Chris Jericho and maybe an ECW one. I think that would still be on the table as well. So hopefully those attires can be done later for future luminary figures of Chris Jericho. And now finally, for real this time, Jade Cargill is the last member of this wave. I think the head sculpt was okay, but it's an early painted prototype, so we're going to see what that final version looks like. Jade is definitely a electric performer. Hopefully she has some different head sculpts, but I think as her first figure, this is pretty good. Now we're going to have to get some other figures of her down the road with multiple hair colors and 100% need the Jade as Jade cosplay for Mortal Kombat. And I love the fact that Tony Schiavone actually knew what she was dressed as at Revolution. That was cool. All right, so Series 5, Kenny Omega gets another figure. This one is in street clothes back when he was obnoxious world champion, trying to find the most hideous outfits to rock for every promo. Love this. I think, again, you want to get your universe fleshed out more just beyond wrestling, so now you can have your street clothes Adam Page facing off with obnoxious clothed Kenny Omega. Red Velvet is also getting a new figure, or getting her first figure. That's cool. She's been around for too long to not have one. Instant feud with Jade Cargill, so really good, strong addition to the female roster. Sammy Guevara actually has a new figure coming. This one, Blood and Guts, inmate style. Sean Spears, also Blood and Guts, white. This is his first figure. Now we finally complete the Pinnacle, and this is kind of an Adam Cole situation, but we're not waiting that long, and we get everybody in one setup. And I think it'll be okay to have Sean Spears in this white attire since his outfits don't really matter, basically, since he's been the chairman of the Pinnacle. But we wrapped up the Pinnacle just that fast between the two, Unrivaled, the Unmatched series. Really like to see that, how fast they knocked this out. So within the span of a year, we'll get this entire thing done. And we also have Darby Allin in LJN style. And the last figure of this assortment is Bryan Danielson. So the two big names that came out, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, getting their figures. Christian Cage got their figures. Really good. They got those newer ones, the big heavy hitters, CM Punk also. So this is pretty exciting. They're getting these new guys done without having to wait too long. We're seeing the prototypes, we're seeing the renders, and we know they're coming, which is really what we wanted to see. Like, all right, cool. Now we see the, we saw the picture of Punk. Now we saw the figures. Now we're seeing the pictures of the renders of Cole and Danielson. So you can imagine it won't be too long before we see Keith Lee, Swerve, and Jeff Hardy. Really exciting stuff. 2 more waves on the Unmatched front. Series 6 is Malachi Black, Mr. Brody Lee, Santana, and Ortiz. I think by now we can safely assume they will be in their inmate outfits. Hopefully with the black and white face paint, get that whole look down too. Ruby Soho gets her first figure, and maybe the most important one of this wave and of the year for Jazwares, Owen Hart. Now, Jazwares has a big opportunity here to deliver massive Owen Hart figures. I think Mattel Elite collectors are going to grab these. they're not going to be hard foundation attires, not Nation of Domination attires. I'm assuming we're going to get Calgary Stampede, New Japan, looks for Owen. I don't really care. I'm very curious if they'll change up some of the head sculpts, though. Maybe give us a crew cut so we can customize and do some stuff like that to make a Blackheart, to make a Nation Owen figure. But it's just really exciting to have a new Owen Hart figure coming down the pipeline, because it's just, he has been so overdue to be celebrated, to be hailed, recognized, incorporated in photo displays, photo shots. So it'll be really cool to get an Owen Hart figure in this line. Looking forward to seeing him. Finally, Series 7. CM Punk is the LJN figure in this wave. We get all of Death Triangle, so that's Penta, Phoenix, Pac, again, doing a faction all at once. So if you missed out on these guys before, here you go. Pac had a kind of questionable head sculpt before, so maybe this will be an improved one with him. And Thunder Rosa gets another new figure. That's good. She's got plenty of options. She's a figure that if they do the mold right, I think I'll buy more of her figures than some of these others, just because they can change up so many looks of hers. Final figure here is Hook. So now we complete our Team Taz. We've got Hook. I'm really hoping they give him a removable hoodie, so in a bag of chips as an accessory, so we can have him in the street gear look and his wrestling attire. So that'd be cool to add him and complete Team Taz. That was a lot of reveals, a lot of announcements, but I think the biggest, most exciting one that we got was the Supreme Collection line. Now, this one is Jazwares' answer to the Ultimate Edition line from Mattel, which was an answer to Jazwares' original Unmatched line, an Unrivaled line. So Mattel was like, shoot, these guys are stepping up the articulation. We've got to go another level, and let's do figures where they can take the ring jackets off, swap out the arms, and maybe swap out other parts and give them different head sculpts in one figure. And then he was like, okay, well, shoot, we need to keep going. So let's incorporate double jointed elbows, something that was long overdue for this line, and butterfly shoulders. And that really improved and enhanced so many of the Mattel figures that Adult Ultimate Edition is my way to go for most of these guys going forward now. And now I can't wait to see what they do in response to this Supreme Collection line, because I think Jazwares is really onto something big here. And the first wave is Cody, again, keeping him in rotation, and Britt Baker. What's really special about this wave, about this line, is you're going to get the full ring attire. So for Cody, that's the Homelander tribute outfit and, everything. And he's going to come with multiple head sculpts, so you can swap out whatever you want. And then you can take that off, swap out the jacket arms, take that off, have a wrestling attire. But the cool thing is you can also swap out the legs. So you've got the Homelander colors, the red, white, and blue. And then you've also got another attire. So you've got different swappable pants. So you've got a 2-in-1 essentially. And with all the different head sculpts, you can really mix and match, which you get with Cody. And he also comes with a t-shirt. So you can really go with different styles of the American Nightmare. And one thing I thought would have been pretty cool, and beyond this coolness that we're already getting with this thing, is to have a head sculpt with dark hair, just so you could have all the different looks of Cody through AEW. So that was just something that I thought that would be cool. But with all these different head sculpts, you can definitely paint one yourself. Really nice option. Britt Baker has another cool implementation of this format, because they went with a straight up ring gear promo style. So she didn't have different matching bottoms, because that's not how her outfit works. She has pants, so you can give her a Britsburg t-shirt, put that on, so while she's chewing out Tony and doing her DMD, when there's still no Rebel, at least you're going to have Jamie Hayter having her back. But that's really cool too. And again, multiple head sculpts, so you can go with different expressions depending on whatever look you want to do with her. Very exciting. I think this SKU is going to be in the $40 range, and I don't think that's outrageous given the fact that we're getting two figures in one. And I just love the possibilities that are existing with this. Wave 2 is Malachi Black and Kenny Omega. So there's all kinds of different head sculpts with Malachi Black, different paint setups, got his different hood, skull mask, or whatever he's rocking, his cloaks. you can do that. So lots of really cool options for him. Kenny Omega, I think, is even better because he's got his ring gear jacket. Then they gave him all these different expressions, different portraits with different colored hair because Kenny was rocking all these hairstyles when he was a champ. So he can do that now. And again, you've got swappable tights. The swappable tights to me changes up so much and allows you to have different options. Now, we've gotten several Omega figures already with different tights, but now it's like, oh man, we get 2 more just with 1 figure. I really like this idea, and I'm really curious to see what Mattel does in response because this can really change up a lot of stuff, especially with modern WWE guys. They're just changing the color, the accent colors of their tights anyway. So if they do this, changes everything. So we'll see. But that was everything. Joe, I hope you like that breakdown of everything. A lot of cool stuff on the horizon coming from Jazwares with these unrivaled, unmatched Supreme Collection lines. And I'm not sure if I remembered earlier, but these photos came courtesy of Michael Reddy. You can follow him on Instagram, Rob M, and where it's also listed, Ringside Collectibles, like your #1 source for buying all these figures early before everybody else. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown of all these AEW reveals, and I'll be back real soon. This episode of Lyle's Figure Files has been filed.